Have you heard the news? Home buyers now have to pay their own real estate agent, and sellers are just going to sit back and laugh. Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. Headlines just like that clickbaity hook I just gave you are probably what you've been hearing out and about on the media, online, about how things are going to change in the real estate industry. And while yes, there are changes that are coming about and they're coming in effect this week, August 17th, some of the things you've heard are over-exaggerating the truth. So let's talk about what changes are to be made and how that's going to affect the real estate industry, how this is going to affect you and me in our real estate relationship, especially here in Rapid City, South Dakota. First of all, let's back up a little bit and talk about what happened. So in the end of 2023, there was a class action lawsuit against a lot of the big name brokerages and the National Association of REALTORs, stating that sellers should not have to pay their buyer's agent and that they weren't aware of said charges that were in place during that time. The verdict came back as liable. So big real estate company after big real estate company started settling with the plaintiffs just to put this whole matter behind them. In similar fashion, the National Association of REALTORs started putting together a settlement earlier this year to make sure all of its members were released from any future liability. Part of this was, of course, a huge chunk of money, but on top of that, there are also two basic changes, kind of the two main changes that will come about with this settlement. The first change is all buyer agents are required to have a buyer-broker agreement signed with anybody that wants to look at a property. Here in South Dakota, that's something we've always had. This is the document that discloses to you, first of all, how we can help you as real estate agents in the state of South Dakota. And it also talks about our duties to you, your duties to us. And in the current agreement, it does have a clause that talks about the percentage that a buyer's agent should get paid for this transaction. Now, the way it has been working is within the multiple listing service, the MLS, which is the software system that all of us agents put our listings into. One of the fields on that MLS system was buyer agent co-op. And this was kind of like the written proof saying, yes, the seller is willing to pay you, the buyer's agent, a percentage of the purchase price. And here it is. More on that later. So now when you as a buyer just want to look at a property, we have to have you sign this buyer agency agreement to make sure that you understand how we're getting paid and make sure that you understand the process therein. Now, these buyer agreements are time-based and they are location-based. So you could say, I'm just going to sign this buyer-broker agreement for this day. You could just sign the buyer-broker agreement for this one property. However, that means that if you go back and buy this property that you looked at on this one day or buy this one property, you are contractually obligated to pay that real estate agent, not maybe another real estate agent you've looked at another house down the road. So if you're thinking about buying a property, time for me to get up on my soapbox again and talk to you about this. It's time for you to do your homework. Don't just click a button on homes.com or Zillow.com and hope to be shown the property by whoever answers the phone. You are now going to be required to sign a document with them for that property and would have to pay them on that property, even if you don't like them, even after having a conversation with them, you don't feel like they really represent your interests. That agreement still stands. So do your homework first. Interview a bunch of buyer's agents you feel you'd be comfortable with. Find the one that you jive with the best. Find the one that you feel is going to represent you in this transaction the best. Even if you call the listing agent on the sign, when they show you the property, they will still have to have you sign that buyer agency agreement, even though they're working for the seller, because they could potentially be working for you as well as the buyer. The only caveat here is the public open house. If the listing agent is holding a public house available for everyone, he's thus working for the seller, and then you don't have to have a buyer's agreement signed for everybody that walks in the door.
Okay, quick edit, something I forgot to put in the video when I was recording it, and that is this. If you want to be unrepresented when you are buying a property, you can still do that. When you call the listing agent, he will probably have you sign a document twice stating that, yes, I understand how I'm represented in this transaction, and then again saying, hey, I am not being represented, I understand that. So that is a possibility for you if that's how you want to play the game.
And our new buyer agency agreements that are coming out here shortly, there will be more space on that agreement that talks about the fee a buyer's agent will charge for their services and how that fee can be collected during the real estate transaction. All right, now we get to the second part, which is the part that's created the most buzz around the internet and in the realtor community especially. That buyer agent cooperation field that I was mentioning earlier, that field is hereby removed from the MLS. And they're going to be looking very hard for any cute code words, any other thing that says commission to, buyer agency paid, all that information. None of that can be stated on the MLS in any fashion. Nor can any link that you send to from that MLS, such as a virtual tour, say buyer agency commission offered, etc., etc. It can say nothing about a buyer agency commission on MLS anywhere. The purpose of this is to allow the seller to have their choice on how they may or may not want to pay the buyer's agent that brings them the offer. And this is where a lot of the information has stopped. Oh, I don't have to pay your buyer's agent? Great. And while that's something that's always been an option for us on our listing agreements, we have two lines to talk about: percentage that goes to listing agency and percentage that goes to the buyer's agency. So it's been there for a while, but I don't know that sellers have ever felt like they could say, hey, I don't want to pay the buyer's agent this. That's just kind of the way it was. So they just get rid of, that's the way it is. So let's dive in a little bit more, talk more about what this means for us here in Rapid City, South Dakota. Our average price point in Rapid City is about $300,000 to $400,000. That's the majority of the home sales, is the under the $600,000 range. Now, chances are a buyer in that price range, especially with the interest rates that we have right now, can't afford to have a 3.5% down payment, pay 2 to 3% closing costs, and also pay 2 to 3% for their buyer's realtor. That would put them out of the game whatsoever. So if you're going to sell your home, especially in this price point, it's probably advantageous to you to offer a buyer's agent fee to pay for that buyer to come buy your property. Now, perhaps in the over $600,000 crowd, that might change a little bit. There's a little more money playing around. Maybe there's more affordability on the buyer side to pay their buyer's agent. But buyers in that price point also didn't get there by being stupid. If they can negotiate their buyer agent fee into the purchase agreement, that's probably what they're going to do. So this is what this is going to look like in our area. On our purchase agreement, we're going to have 2 new clauses. The first one is concessions. And this would be like if you're going to pay the buyer closing costs, if you're going to pay points for the buyer, that kind of thing. That's all going to be delineated out into a paragraph. Then the next paragraph is going to talk about buyer agency commission. And here's where the buyer can say, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, I want you to pay my buyer agent X amount of money. And this can be a percentage, it could be a flat fee, it could be whatever. Then the seller then has the opportunity to look at that and say, hey, maybe I won't pay your buyer agent this much, but I'll pay your buyer agent this much. And thus the negotiation begins, except now we're not talking about just purchase price and other terms, but also what we're going to pay the buyer's agent, if anything. The term everything's negotiable is now kind of really kicking into high gear. It's going to be interesting over the next couple months as we as real estate agents kind of figure out how this new thing's going to work and how to make it work between us as agents and between you as sellers and buyers. The ultimate goal is for the consumer, so they have all the information and they can make the informed decisions that they need to for their real estate investment. If you're thinking about buying a property, don't let all the scary news stories stop you from moving forward and buying a property because you think you have to pay the buyer's agent. Even if a seller's agent says, no, they're not offering a buyer's agent commission, doesn't mean that they won't with the right offer. As a buyer's agent, I would still take you to look at all the properties available. We would then move forward at making an offer on the property that you love the best. And then we'd add my fee in there to make sure that I got paid for the transaction and the negotiation would start. There's been a whole lot more buzz about this than I think there really needs to be. Find yourself a buyer's agent that you trust, sign that buyer agreement with them before you start even looking for properties, and you're ready to roll when everything's in place. Sellers, listen to your real estate agent about the importance, or maybe not the importance, of paying a buyer's agent, what that fee might be and what that looks like. There's nothing here to be scared of. We real estate agents are still going to do our best to make sure that both the seller and the buyer's interests are protected throughout these new changes coming about. We might not like all of them, they might not all make sense, but it's what we got to deal with at this time. This is kind of a different video, so I want to make sure to end it with, if you have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to your favorite realtor. Make sure that you know all things going on moving forward so you can make smart, educated decisions in the path to come. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. And remember, love you live.